Welcome to Hub City Spokes, where creators, catalysts, entrepreneurs, and leaders share their insight here in Lubbock, Texas. I'm Katherine White with the Lubbock Economic Development Alliance, and today I have with me Mike Jones, the Director of Technology with Primitive Social. Thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
So you're originally from Dickens. Walk me through kind of where life took you from there.
Yeah, so a lot of folks aren't even going to know what Dickens is, right? Dickens is a small community about 60 miles east of Lubbock, right, which is toward Dallas. Dallas is about 330 miles or so a third of the way to Dallas. Dickens, when I was growing up, there was about 409, I think, is what the sign said, people there. And it was a very small town, right, with not a lot to do. But I loved it. I loved the area. You get a little bit east of Lubbock, you get off the Cap Rock, you have beautiful scenery, rolling hills, part of the canyon system that we have, Blanco Canyon, you pass right through there. It's a very beautiful area and an area that's near and dear to my heart. And that's where my grandparents were. And so I was kind of living with my grandparents as a youngster, up to the age of about, I think, 7. And then my mom married a guy in the Air Force, and we actually moved from Dickens to Anchorage, Alaska, to Elmendorf Air Force Base. And I don't know that a lot of people could imagine the stress or the shock that it was to a little 7-year-old, never been outside of Texas.
Yeah, it's quite different.
Kid to go to Anchorage, Alaska in the wintertime, and just kind of changed my whole world there. And Anchorage, Alaska, actually, on Elmendorf Air Force Base, that plays a big part in my professional life, believe it or not, even though we left there when I was 10, because Anchorage is where I first started learning software development. So there was a class that was an optional class that you could take, and as a 4th grader, as 9 years old, I started to learn software development. And this would have been, I guess, in 1982, right, on an old Apple IIe computer. And from that point, I was just hooked on software development. And so we ended up leaving as people that are military brats. You stay at one place for a short amount of time. We went to San Antonio to Randolph Air Force Base, and I was able to kind of continue some of my interest in software development and computers in general, at a time when really they weren't on too many people's radar. I'm amazed still that they bothered to offer it as a class to us as in elementary school in 1982. So from San Antonio, I actually ended up moving back as about a 14-year-old to the Dickens County area, and that was a whole different story there. It was very rural. The schools there are not well funded. They're not rich schools, rich school districts. And so we didn't have computers, in the late 80s. This would have been 1988 or so, 89 time frame. And so I kind of lost sight of software development as a thing that I liked to do and really didn't know what to do with my life. And so we had a recruiter come by, military recruiter, and I'd been on military bases and Air Force bases. Just a warning for people. Navy bases are not like Air Force bases. I'll just let you know that ahead of time. So we had a Navy recruiter come by, and I ended up enlisting in the Navy into what's known as the nuclear program in the Navy. And so I did that, and towards the end of my Navy career, which was 6 years long, I was stationed on board the USS Enterprise, which is an aircraft carrier. And I had the opportunity to do a little software development towards the end of my Navy career, which then, as soon as I got out, I continued to pursue, and this would have been 99, 2000 time frame, about the time that the internet was really becoming a huge thing. And I just learned all that I could about it, and helped out my grandparents in Dickens. They're entrepreneurs. They own the title company there. I helped them with some software for that. And then married a girl from Spur, that I'd known in high school. I was 28 years old. And then I actually went back to school to just kind of officially, have a degree and all that. I went to Lubbock Christian University. Before I even graduated Lubbock Christian University, I started my first software development company, which was called Lone Star Programming. And I've just continued along that path until very recently, when I left my last software development company that I co-founded to work with Cade and Jared over at Primitive Social. So that's the short version of it. Believe me, I could go on about it.
Well, tell me about some of the things you learned with those different projects, those different business ventures. Well,
one of I think the biggest lesson that I learned was I'm not operating I don't have to operate in a vacuum. When I was a college student, I was a non-traditional student, so I was 31 when I graduated. And so I'm 31 years old, started my first company, and just did it by myself. Didn't have anybody to rely on, didn't have any resources or anything, and just kind of, made a go of it. And then for the first, say, 8 or 9 years, it never even crossed my mind to do something like join the Chamber of Commerce or, do any networking events or meet anybody, join the Software Developer Club. We have a Software Developer Club here in Lubbock, and there's 300 something members, right, of the Software Developer Club. I never knew any other software developers in Lubbock except for maybe 1 or 2 of them that I went to school with. And so I really did that in a vacuum. And I've learned more recently, say the last 6 or 8 years, that there's a lot of resources that I should have been taking advantage of to help me along the way. And I've been able to take advantage of some of those resources with some of the more recent companies that I've been involved with. And so from the angle of, the experiences that I had that shape what I'm going to do in the future, just the importance of collaborating and the importance of networking with other people is really something that I missed out on very early on.
So for those that are looking to start a business, what resources would you recommend here in Lubbock?
Oh, here in Lubbock, it's fantastic. It's limitless, right? Everybody here is, and I've sat in your seat, and I think I've mentioned this to other people, is that everyone here, from the governmental type agencies to the volunteer type agencies to associations, volunteer organizations, everybody here is like all in. It's 100% commitment. Texas Tech University kind of is the central locus of all that. It's where everything kind of comes together. But if you are starting a business in the West Texas area, or if you want to find a good place to start a business where you're going to have a lot of ecosystem resources to help you out, then the first thing that I would do is get plugged into the activities that are going on at the Texas Tech University Innovation Hub at Research Park. Get involved in some of their programs, the Red Raider Startup Program, Accelerator programs, lightning round competitions, all of these things. There's literally dozens of mentors associated with these programs, volunteers that are out in the community, business people, entrepreneurs like myself, educators that will help you. There's the Small Business Development Center. There's a Small Business Administration. Definitely, you know what? I understand as a startup business that maybe you can't pay fees to join the chamber or something like that, but go to the chamber events anyway, right? The chamber events are open, generally speaking. Go, meet a few people, build your business, and then join the chamber and make sure that you take advantage of all that the chamber has to offer. All of those things, I think, that we offer here in Lubbock are just worlds better. And I travel around Texas a good bit, and can compare. And as far as getting that head start in a business, there's nothing comparable.
That's fantastic. So tell me a little bit about your role with Primitive Social and how your background as an entrepreneur kind of feeds into that role.
Okay, yeah. So for those that don't know, Primitive Social is a digital marketing and software development and video production, basically all things digital type of a company. It's owned and ran by a couple of really good guys. Cade Wilcox and Jared Hurst, and the reason I say that they're good guys is because their focus is the right focus, right? It's on the servant side of things. It's I'm serving my customers, and that really, I identify with that mentality. So I was at a company that I had co-founded called Caprock Custom Applications, which is a custom software house, obviously, because I'm a software developer, and I guess it was about three to 4 months ago. I left that company, and I was talking to Cade and Jared, and basically they just said, "Hey, you know what? Come work for us because, we always need someone who has done the things that you've done and can add value to our organization." And really, there was no set plan for that. Honestly, it was just come work for us and we'll figure it out because we think that we can do things together that are better or greater than we're doing by ourselves. And so that's how I ended up there. And I love working with the people there. I don't actually work with Primitive Social a whole lot because I actually work in one of their other companies. Cade and Jared own another company called Fast Pay Payroll. And so I'm getting to be involved in the process over there of implementing a new payroll software. And it's software oriented. And we've got a really great team of people working on it, and I love working with them. And so it's been a really, really positive experience.
That's great. So in both of those capacities, how do you find the business community in Lubbock?
The business community in Lubbock, it's second to none as far as I'm concerned. Everyone here, they recognize the value of hard work and the kind of the true grit mentality of West Texas, right? And we're going to do the work and get it done. At the same time, we have the opportunity to work together. It's a large enough community that we have any opportunity that you could want, but it's a tight-knit enough community that we have access to the people and the resources, that we need for our businesses. So I think it's a really, really great environment.
So tell me a little bit about your family. I know you have 2 kids that are involved with the Young Entrepreneurs Academy.
Right. So I've got 3 children. Keely is 22 years old, and she's not at home. And then I have 2 that are 11. They're twins, currently 11. Leah and Daniel. And so the Chamber of Commerce here, and I think Lita is involved in it as well, put on the Young Entrepreneurs Academy curriculum, I guess. And I would call it that because it lasts the whole school year, right? The kids go once a week, and I believe it's about 3 hours long. It actually happens here at the hub, just downstairs from where we're at now. And they learn how to start a business. They are mentored by professionals, business people, entrepreneurs. I know many of the entrepreneurs, and I'm very satisfied with who they've got doing that and the quality of that. And they get an education on what it's really like to start a business. So they do revenue projections. They do business plans. They work with designers to design assets, digital assets for their business, like business cards. We just got both of their business cards in the mail earlier this week. And they look really good. And so they teach them the whole process of basically starting, taking an idea and sharing it with others and getting feedback, because that's an important part of starting a business that a lot of people kind of skip over. And then take that idea, tweak it, develop it, create a business around it. And it's a really fantastic opportunity. And it's very low cost. I think that most of the tuition is actually usually funded by grants and stuff. You do usually get a really diverse set of people in there. It's really great. And then at the end, there's all the students pitch to an investor panel, and the investor panel is made up of professionals in the business or in the community. And then the winner of that gets to, you know, they judge the quality of the presentation and the idea and the business plans and all that. And then they select a winner, and that winner gets to go to the next level of competition, which is the national competition in Rochester, New York. And my son Daniel won that. And so we're going to New York like next week, I think.
Wow,
so,
that's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's just a great experience for both of them, really. It's really fantastic.
So what is his project? What was his pitch that he won?
So his pitch is Fort in a Box, and you can go to fortinabox.biz and learn all about it. And so what it is cardboard. So there's, I think, 8 cardboard pieces that are 4 feet long, and they're like angle iron except cardboard. And there's several holes in it, and they're reinforced with metal grommets. And then you have nylon connectors, and so you can basically build yourself a traditional blanket fort with extra pieces, right? And so it's not necessarily designed to be a standalone fort. You use it in conjunction with, just like when you were a kid or I was a kid, you know, we would build blanket forts with our couches and end tables and coffee tables and all of that stuff. So that's what his idea is, and he's received a lot of good feedback about it. In fact, we opened it up for pre-orders the other day and had his whole monthly his monthly sales projection, I think, met within 24 hours.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I'm sure you're really proud of
I'm proud of all of them. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Have you learned anything from him as he's gone through that process or anything?
You know, that's a great question. I've learned that sometimes, you know, and I guess it's more of a reinforcement of something that I kind of had an inkling about before, but you know, just go and do it, right? I mean, you'll get a lot of advice, and there'll be advice on this podcast, and it'll come out of my mouth too, of, you know, make sure that there's a market for what you want to do, right? And I think that's great advice, but, you know, watching him go through that process, watching all the other competitors, or I don't even consider them competitors, watching all the other participants in the program pick their ideas and pitch their ideas and be passionate about it. I mean, at the end of the day, there has to be a market for your product, and Dan's there is, right? But you have to have that passion, and it just kind of reminds me and reinforces in my mind, you know, the things that are really successful. You know, it's yes, it's a great idea, and yes, it's a hard work. It is hard work, and yes, it is other people being involved and helping you. But you got to have all 3 of those. It's not just a single thing. Yeah.
So after all that hard work, what do you and your family like to do for fun here in Lubbock?
So one of the things I picked up when I was in the military was actually mountain biking, for some reason, I just happened to be really, really good at it. And in fact, this is going to sound funny. When I got out of the Navy, I considered doing that professionally, downhill mountain biking. But so what I like to do is, as a family, we like to be outdoors a lot. And so my wife's family has a ranch that's about an hour's drive away from here. And it's as soon as you get maybe 40 miles east of Lubbock, you kind of drop off this geographical feature here called the Cap Rock, or the Llano Estacado, and it's very hill country like down there, and lots of rolling hills and very pretty country. And so we like to go down there and hang out. We'll go down there and ride our mountain bikes. We have up north between here and Amarillo is Palo Duro Canyon. I'm sure you're aware. And we love to go do mountain biking there, or just hiking, or go watch, you know, the Texas musical there. And then also Cap Rock Canyon State Park is maybe just a little bit further of a drive than Palo Duro, but it's a little bit more low key. You know, you can go, if we're going to go camping, that's where we're going to go, actually. And they got a nice little lake there, and a lot less traffic, and it's more just relaxed kind of environment. And so we love to do that. And my family, gosh, the kids, anything that they can do. So we homeschool, and so my wife takes them to there's so many museums and so many different things. And even in the little towns around here, that you can go to, and so we love to do that, and really just kind of engage in some of the recreational / educational opportunities there are around here. So
yeah, there's definitely a lot of opportunities with the Ranching Heritage Center and all the different museums, Bayer Museum of Agriculture. And a lot of people are surprised actually that Palo Canyon is the second largest canyon in the United States, just north of Lubbock. So.
Yeah, and it's fantastic if you've never been, for sure.
Yeah,
that's an opportunity you don't want to miss.
Right. Well, it sounds like you guys have a good work-life balance here. We forgot to mention earlier, actually, you're the podcast host, if I can actually get that out.
Yeah.
How did the podcast start?
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, I do a lot of traveling. I spend a lot of time in different areas, learning different things, meeting with clients, and really just generally networking and that kind of stuff. And I'm also a big proponent of veteran entrepreneurship. And I like to... wherever I can, I like to engage in the veteran entrepreneur communities. And so I was in the Dallas-Fort Worth area at a networking event, and there was a veteran there. His name's Donnie. Donnie, I'm sorry, I can't remember your last name at the moment. He actually has a podcast called Donnie's Success Champions. And he encouraged me to do something like that, just in general. And I didn't think a whole lot about it. And then a couple of weeks later, I was at another networking event, and I met a former Las Vegas police officer, and he's got a couple of podcasts. And his name is his name is Rob, and they've got a Rob and Dale show, and then they have a podcast called Drinking for Dummies, and that kind of really got me to thinking about what I could do in terms of giving back to the community. And one of the things that I really wanted to do was to tell, and one of the things I'm very passionate about is entrepreneurship in general, veteran entrepreneurship, anything really entrepreneur related. And so this kind of was born out of that desire to basically tell everybody how awesome Lubbock is, and how awesome the entrepreneurship activities are here. And so that's kind of how that was the ideation stage of all that, and I'm just so happy that it's come together and we can do that and tell these stories.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you love about Lubbock?
I mean, the very first thing obviously is the people, right? I mean, Lubbock has got a fantastic community. I grew up a little bit east of here, as we've already talked about, and so the area in general, the outdoors, the opportunities to be outdoors, to do things outside, is very very precious to me. My granddad always had horses, and we would be riding horses out at his place. He also had an orchard, and so we would be out working in his orchard and just being outside and doing all those things. It's just something that I always want to have in my life, and it's good to do that here. We have a lot of opportunities to do that here in Lubbock, and we have a lot of opportunities in Texas to do that. I mean, Texas is huge, and we have everything from swamps to mountains with everything in between. And so, and beaches too. And so, wrapping that all up in terms of why I'm here, because I've literally been all over the world when I was in the Navy. I could actually, I could live anywhere and do anything that I want, right, in terms of the software world or whatever. So it's the people, it's the outdoors activities, it's the family friendly environment. So, my kids, like I said, we homeschool them, and people would think, well, when you're homeschooling a kid, that they don't get socialized or they don't have opportunities to do extracurricular activities. Listen, my kids are going to the national chess tournament. They're leaving today to go to the national chess tournament that's happening in Dallas starting tomorrow. They've done soccer. Leah does horseback riding. Daniel does piano. They've done track, they've done swimming. I mean, the environment here, the opportunities for for young people here, kids here, to do all kinds of things and to do them in a safe manner, and to do them with, generally people that or that at least you're familiar with is really a great attribute here. Yeah,
definitely. It's good when you have a community that's kind of lots of opportunities. And
for sure, it's a wealth of opportunities here. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, thanks for all you do for the community of entrepreneurs here and hosting the podcast. We appreciate it. And appreciate having some time today to talk. Well,
it's my pleasure.
Hub City Spokes is presented by the Lubbock Economic Development Alliance and produced in partnership with Hamel Brothers Studios. A special thanks to the Innovation Hub here at Texas Tech University for hosting us. To hear more from our creators and catalysts, visit lubbockeda.org/podcast.